we'll make a quick start if you're happy with that, Ryan. All right, we'll start now. So welcome everyone to the July Sensei Ask an Expert webinar. Today we are talking on the topic is what a great PM's day look like when they use the AI built into their Microsoft tools. Next, please, Ryan. So, like always, this session is being recorded and you will get it afterwards if you have to leave. However, if you could please remain on mute throughout the presentation unless you're asking a question, that would be amazing. If you did have a question, however, use the raise your hand tool or the chat function. One of our experts will get to you. There'll also be a Q&A held at the end of the session, and as I previously mentioned, the webinar recording and follow-up content will be sent to your emails after. All right, Ryan. All right, so today we have Ryan speaking, so I'm going to pass over to you, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Hello, everyone. Welcome to almost the end of the month and a cold winter. Hopefully, we're going to give you something nice that you can see that will sort of warm your hearts a bit in terms of some AI things you can do. So I'm the AI lead at Sensei. What we're going to do today is show you not so much Sensei things. We're actually going to show you Microsoft things. The goal will be to show you what you can do out of the box with common Microsoft tools that are either AI focused or have AI within them. Some of you are already doing these things, which is great. Some of you may not be doing it yet. So this is to give you a bit of a jump start in terms of this. So we'll look at what Microsoft has actually got. We will look at when you would use things, just some things you shouldn't do. And then we will do most of today just running through half a dozen examples, so little scenario demos, and we will go through it. And hopefully, I'm hoping you will take something away that you can use right now in the office. Okay, so I did say it would be Microsoft things, and it would be out of the box Microsoft things. So we're going to focus on Copilot and the variations thereof. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is something you should all have. Generally, you're talking to us because you have an interest in Microsoft or you're within the Microsoft ecosystem. Microsoft Copilot is a typical Microsoft naming because everything is called Copilot. So let's look at what makes this up. Microsoft Copilot consists of, well, Microsoft Copilot, and that's the main thing that you would sort of see. And there are two versions there. There's a work version and what they call a web version. Think of it as the version you use for work that's paid for and is secure, versus the web version is the version that goes outside, looks at outside things, looks at the web for knowledge, not just your internal work files, your work data, but there is a free version there as well. And that can be something that we'll talk about a bit further because it may send your data out. Microsoft Copilot, generally, you all come to us through a Microsoft account. It does not send your data out, does not train the model with your data. So it's secure, it's safe, it's private. There is a free version, of course, that if you use that, there can be a problem, but I will talk to you about it later. There is a way you can fix that. Now, there is something else within the, let's call it the Copilot stable, and that is the relatively new Copilot Co-work or Microsoft Co-work. It's a tool that we are going to have a look at. It is kind of like Copilot on steroids, but that's not actually what it is. What it actually is a tool that is used for multi-step processes, as opposed to, I just need to quickly talk to an AI. Note, it's billed differently. So yes, you can get it. Some of you may have it already. It is just sort of preview, but the problem is they do bill it differently. It does cost a bit more. Then back to just normal Copilot, you have Copilot through all your Office apps. This I find is often the kind of forgotten child of the Copilot family because there are some great things you can do with these Microsoft Office apps or Copilot in those Office apps, but not everyone actually uses it. They kind of forget it's there. So we will have a look at one of those. We'll look at Excel specifically. And there are some other apps. I've just listed one here, Researcher. There are a few others we'll actually have a look at, but these are the more powerful apps that Microsoft has come out with. They are underneath Copilot, and it's not an app, it's an agent actually, and it is able to do, in this case, research. There are a few other things like that as well. So Microsoft gives you a bit of a head start. Going beyond this, you can, of course, build your own agents, etc., using Copilot Studio, but we won't go into that level of detail today. Okay, so
I can project it here.
You can project. Now it's not showing on mine.
we're going to get someone to mute themselves because
mute.
they're talking about a really great projector. I'm sure it's an awesome projector, and I would like to see it, but I've got to do this first. Okay, so there are a whole bunch of copilots, and they all have similar sounding names. What do you use when? Well, there is Copilot Chat. It is the Gen AI tool that you see generally if you go to Copilot. What you see is Copilot Chat. We will look at it soon. It is included in Microsoft 365, so you should all have that. It uses the outside web. Now we're assuming you do not have another license. Okay, you do not have a paid Copilot license. You still get this. It uses the outside web for knowledge and anything you upload. There are some limits of, I think, 20 files that you can upload. What it's for is really transactional. Like, hey, I need to send an email to the boss. Can you turn all this text into an email? I need to shorten this down to 100 words. Can you do that? I need to quickly figure out what something means. And what is Copilot versus Copilot Studio, for example? And then we'll do that. You go to it, you ask it one thing, you get an answer back. That's it. We can also do images. But then you have the very similar sounding name. It's now Copilot Chat with Copilot. And to be really confusing, they look exactly the same, except behind the scenes, you've actually paid for this one now. It will look at your work data as well by default. So it will go into the Microsoft Graph or WorkIQ, and it will look at your emails and your SharePoint and maybe your Teams meetings, etc. It also turns up in Office, so the Office like Word, Excel, etc. Okay, this is what we're going to focus on today, because most of you, this is where the real power happens. Now, underneath it is something called Co-work, as I'd mentioned before. You need that subscription, plus you pay per usage. Okay, so you pay by task. It looks at your company data again, your organization data, and really it's not actually a glorified version of Copilot. It's meant almost like a workflow that you would say, hey, I need you to go and research something, then take that and turn it into a PowerPoint, then book me a meeting with Ellie. We're going to talk about it and do all these different things. Okay, so it's sort of multi-step, more advanced, complicated tasks. And then right on the end, the agent buzzword's been around for a long time. These are things that you will find inside Copilot, like that research agent. You can also build your own using Copilot Studio. They're really about, I need it to be an assistant that works autonomously, but I want it to actually go further and connect to other things. I want a bit of control. So don't just generally go and look at my work data. I want to tell you, go and look at exactly that SharePoint location and then go and connect through to my project system or to my finance system or whatever I need to do. So it's almost like you're customizing your own AI a little bit. Okay, so this is the Microsoft story. It really comes down to what are you using. So let's look at what's dangerous. If you are using Microsoft, you can trust in Microsoft because they've put the effort into by design, making sure that this is not sending your data outside. If you are using a work or a school account, which you should all be using if you are talking to us, this is something that has Microsoft Enterprise Data Protection applied to it. So your data does not go outside. It does not get used to train the model. Okay, it's isolated to you. If you've got what they call a consumer account, you can get a free Microsoft account, which none of you should be using for work purposes. It will train the model, but you can set that. You can go into privacy and say, hey, do not do it. And this includes anything like meetings and things like voice and that type of thing. Say no to that as well. So you can actually do that. So Microsoft gives you a lot of control of your data. But what if you're using a non-Microsoft service? Well, this is between you and the people who set policy within your organization. I would say be very careful. Think of it like this. If it's free, so go to ChatGPT, go to Claude, yeah, I know it does great things. However, if you load your company, your organization data into it, and you're not paying for it, you are the payment. They want your data. They want you. That's how they're making their money, okay? So be very careful. It's most likely breaking your organizational rules. So just be careful of that. If you suddenly find you're in serious trouble, that's because you've done that. So yeah, it may not be worth the effort or may not be worth the risk. Use the Microsoft approach because it stays localized. Okay, now we're coming to a demo. A couple of things along the way, a couple of just key points. Remember, you are the human, you're in charge, you validate. So all these things you'll see in the demo, yeah, they're all language-based. So it's all about you prompting it, reading it. But the tip is, and what we've seen the real successful use is, take that and rewrite it from scratch. Use it as input. It's like me going to Ellie and saying, hey, Ellie, you're a marketing expert. Explain to me how I need to do a marketing strategy. Ellie tells me some stuff. I remember it. I go and write it down. It comes out as me doing it, okay? As opposed to Ellie just typing it for me, me copying and pasting, maybe changing a few things. It still looks like AI did it. You're in charge as the human. An approach that was described to me recently was the human's the conductor. So think of whenever you're doing these things, you need to make sure you're getting real meaningful output from that AI. And they're saying, don't just use project data, bring in your personal data. So you may have some personal files. There's a history of some good examples, for example. You may have PMO standards that you want to bring into it as well. You then say, okay, AI, use that, that, and that, bring it together, and I'll then choose what I'm actually doing, and I'll then rewrite it, okay? So this makes sure that we don't end up with what we're going to talk about right now. So Ellie's going to start a poll, and if I can get my, oh, too far, there we go. So question for you. No one can see your response, so you can be as honest as you can be. You'll not get into trouble. So be honest. Have you used AI, either at work or school or wherever, and just kind of send it on and not actually double check that? Or maybe clean a little bit of stuff up and just send it on as it is. Has anyone done that? I'm very interested in these results. How are we looking, Ellie?
Yeah, you want me to walk it through for you, Ryan?
Yes, please.
Cool. So we're at a pretty big landslide of no, 80%, 54, and yes, 19%.
Okay, so what we're saying, we have how many of the how many people are 19%? Does it tell you?
56. Oh,
So
sorry, 56 at 80% now. 57.
No, how many of the yeses?
14.
So there are 14 people who are honest. The rest of you, I really hope you are being truthful because that's very good. So, University of Melbourne did a survey of 30-odd thousand people. 66% of employees in Australia are relying on AI output without evaluating it. That's work slop. That's the worst of work slop. That's a real problem. So if you guys are actually truthful, and thank you for responding truthfully to that, if you are not just passing the AI through, you're ahead of the curve in terms of the rest of the country. Okay, that's really great. So they found a lot of people are sending it through just as is. We often find then someone else uses AI to interpret it on the other side. So AI is talking to AI. There's kind of no point in that. It erodes trust is the main problem. So watch out for work slop. It's better to use it as input and you actually verify it as an editor. When the stakes are high, like you're doing this for some important stakeholder, some important sponsor or someone, let them know you've used AI. It'll excuse any issues they find. And they know why. So you're in a hurry. You need to actually do this. Don't risk them breaking or losing their trust in you because they see work slop coming out. Okay, now, no more slides. We are going to look at some scenarios of things. If anyone does have any questions along the way, you can use the chat. Ellie has put a Q&A option in onto the meeting as well. And Ellie, if you see anything pop up, shout out. So what we are looking at now, out of the box things that you have, this is Copilot. You can do it on the web or you can do it in the app. This is the app. I find the web is actually a little bit more responsive. So they should be exactly the same, but I find if you do something in the web, sometimes it takes a little while to synchronize through onto the app. It can be seconds. I've had it go like, an hour sometimes. So I generally use the app, but just be aware if it looks like it's forgetting your stuff, go try the web. Okay. Now, depending on the version you've got, you may have a thing in the middle here, like a little button that says work or web. This is the new version. where work means work IQ. You can turn that on and off, okay? So now it's using my company information, organization information. If I turn that off, it's using internal. It's using external, so web. So going work versus web, okay? You generally are going to say work. Just be aware of it, because if you set to web and you say, hey, give me some example risks about this project, or things I should think about, it'll just go outside and find someone's blog post on LinkedIn and bring some of that stuff in. And that's got nothing to, it's not relevant. So make sure that is not crossed out, essentially. In here, we do also have co-work. So it's part of Copilot, it's kind of separate and is built differently. We've got underneath a bunch of different agents and things and all the old chats. So we're going to actually start off and we're going to run through a scenario. And this scenario is we've turned up to work on a Wednesday because we start on Wednesdays because, we like it that way. And we are then going to plan out our day. We are going to get told to go do a project. So we're going to do some research on this project. We are then going to sort of go down that path of preparing for the kickoff and do some financial analysis and some status reporting and do some resource analysis as well. So step one, plan our day. We're going to get agents. So how do I plan our day? I would like an assistant. So I would like to have a minion who can go and figure out my day for me and run up to me with a clipboard and saying, Mr. Darby, you have to think about all these things and just sign here and I'll take care of it for you. I haven't quite gotten to the point in life of having such an assistant, but the closest I can get is an agent. So I'm going to go to agents and I'm going to say, hey, plan my day. And there is a plan my day agent. I'm going to look at a few things first. I'm going to see, this one comes from Microsoft. This one's okay. If your IT lets you add agents in, that's good. Just be aware of where they come from. Anyone out there can go around creating agents. So just publish them. So just be aware of where it's coming from. So this one I've already installed. I'm going to say open it. And it will appear in my list of agents over there. So what do I want it to do? I'm going to give it a little prompt. And I could just click that. It's the same thing. I'll paste a prompt in so you can see it. And I've actually said, plan my week. Go and get, remember, it's work IQ. So using the internal organization data. Look at my calendar and Teams and emails and SharePoint or what I'm doing in OneDrive. Look at everything I've got going on. Okay. I've added on, anonymize it because you're all going to see it. It could be something interesting. Now, these things are not instant. If I have my agent, my assistant come up to me and say, hey, what do you want me to do? And I say, go and plan my day. It doesn't happen instantly. They go away and they research things and they figure it out and they come back to me later. So this will take a little while. We'll give this a chance. You'll just have to kind of, talk among yourselves for a few seconds. Some of the other agents we look at in this example today, we won't run them through to completion just because it takes too long. Okay. So urgent. Ooh, okay. There is a tender submission, which is partly anonymized. That's okay. That's true. Large government requirement. Actually, I have no idea what that is. I should probably click on that link and figure it out because don't click on the link. The security questionnaire, I need to do that before I go on holiday. It's giving me what's high impact. It's telling me what's actually, I've got 10 meetings today, 2 client sessions, and it gives me a breakdown of what it thinks I should actually do, okay, and how I should do things. You can plan a day, you can plan a week. It is an out-of-the-box agent, free to use, so, go for it. Okay, so I've planned my day, and something on my day is the big boss wants to talk to me. Let's pretend the big boss wants to talk to me. So I go to the big boss, I'm like, hey, big boss, what's going on? The big boss says, yeah, I know you're getting ready to go on holiday, but I need you to kick off this major project. So, and here's a brief little description of what I want. Go and figure it out. So I'm like, oof, okay. I do not have time to figure it out. But I have an agent called the researcher agent. It's created by Microsoft. So it's a standard thing you can use within Copilot. It's actually pretty good. So I'm going to paste in a prompt over here. And I want to get it to figure out what I need to know. And like mainly what are the risks I should think about in terms of this new project. So I've told it, I'm getting ready for a new project. It's fictional in this case. Go and research the risks and anything I should consider as a project manager. This is what it's about. So Tyrell Corporation wants to put in a project and portfolio management system. And this is what they're actually after. So these are the goals, and who it's going to be used for. And this is kind of the model that we actually use to deliver these things. So this is sort of what the big boss has told me. So I say, hey, now I could at this point go and add in additional information. But in this case, I wanted to just go and find it out itself. So I'm going to say, off you go. Now, I won't let this one run all the way through because it can take from a minute to an hour, depending on how complicated it is. But it will come back to you and actually say, okay, I see what you need. What do you want me to do? Like, I've got a few questions, a few follow-up questions here, or you can just say, go ahead, and how long do you want it? So I'll say short, and I'll say, go ahead. You figure it out. That's what you paid for, okay? It now is going to sit, and it's actually smart. It will plan out how to research it, and it will actually research it, and will come back with all the information on that. As I said, this can take seconds to like an hour, depending on what it does. It is actually worth, and you can see it's thinking as it goes. So I'm going to leave it at this point. We might come back to this one later on. Okay, so check out the researcher. It is actually pretty good. So now I've done my research. I've figured things out as I've gone along, and I need to kick the project off. But as I said, I want to get on with going on holiday, man. I don't have time to wait for things. I don't have time to do kickoff plans and presentations and that type of stuff. Can't someone else do it for me? Well, yes, that's what co-work is for. So I'm going to go to co-work, and I'm going to say, hey, I want you to plan my project. Now remember, when I talk about, so that Tannhauser project is actually the one that's referenced in the researcher. Remember, it's going off into my company or organization information and finding all these things. So it knows I can find out what that is. I don't have to load all the documents in. Again, I could load all these documents in as well. And here's one I had done before. So I'm going to, or I'll tell it to do that. And you'll see it'll start thinking about things. I won't let this one run all the way through again, because this can take, again, from minutes through to an hour or so, depending on how complicated the task
I
is.
might jump in, Ryan, while
Yeah,
it's
Eddie.
loading for us, because we do have a question from Monica. What
Monica.
is the difference between using the researcher or just putting the question into the chat?
The researcher will go much deeper. It will actually research. So it's like the difference between surface level and deep. So what the researcher will do is actually spin up a bunch of other agents, and it will go and try and figure things out. It will plan. It's an actual agent. It will plan. It will try and understand what you're doing. It'll build a plan, like you can see it's happening over here, and it will then do a multi-step approach, find things, check them, etc. Putting it into the chat will work, but it's basically like not the right way of saying it. It's basically a glorified search. Okay, so it's doing a much simpler thing, saying, well, you've put in a paragraph of text. I'll figure out what I think you need based on that. I won't. It'll be the obvious surface level response as opposed to things that are detailed. Now you could just come back. You could see in over here, it's finding the other documents around that relate to this project. It's finding all of those. It's coming up with things. Okay, but I'm not going to make you watch that entire thing. What I will do is I will jump to one I prepared earlier. This is the output, completely AI generated. It's pretty good looking, okay? So it's come up with everything, and what you generally tell it to do is, hey, go and use our organization template for kickoffs, and we'll actually do it. We've told it to use our branding. Ellie and Liz actually came up with like a branding skill for these things. So it's got everything in here, and it looks smart. Okay, at least I think it looks smart. So it's got everyone, what they need to do, all of these things in over here. Yeah, so the whole lot's in here. Definitely worth checking out if you want to do things. This is in contrast to, I'm sure some of you have tried to use like just Copilot within PowerPoint or something to create a presentation. And it kind of, in the past, it's done kind of like that sort of job. That is a lot better now. But once you use co-work, much, much better. But remember I said co-work does have a different pricing. So this little exercise that I've just put it through over here, about $15, okay, is what that's going to cost. So just be aware of these things. If your organization has turned it on, they may start looking at the cost very soon. So I'll just stop that one because I don't need it to continue. Okay, now, so I've done my kickoff. I've got a kickoff, and in the kickoff, somewhere down here, we do talk about resourcing. It's in here somewhere. Anyway, in there's resourcing. So I'm ready to kick this off now, and I go to the big boss, and I'm like, well, you want me to do this? You told me this was important. Do you want it done before I go on holiday? What are you prepared to put in? Are you prepared to back this? Are you going to give me the resources to actually get this done? And as the big boss typically does, is they kind of push you away and say, shoo, go and think of something else and come back to me later because I don't have time to worry about it now. So then what they say is, you go and figure out how we're going to solve the resourcing problem. It's like, okay, how am I going to solve the resourcing problem? Because I need to get this project done, but everyone's busy. Could I shuffle people around and do things? Well, let's go back to Cowork and let's actually give it some other things. So this time, what I'm going to do is I am going to upload. So the difference between add work and upload is add in work will go and look at the things you're doing in SharePoint, essentially. This lets me just go and search for anything I want. Okay. Because this will take a long time to run, what I'm going to feed it is an extract out of the resource system, which I've got in CSV. Okay, because I'm at the box, the easy way. We can link this directly up to your project system like an Altus, no problem. But here we're doing it out the box. So I've just sucked all that out in CSV. And so what I would do is I would go upload that file, and there it is. So this is a current view of the resourcing, and I will tell it what I want. So I want to get it to figure out how I'm going to deliver this project without any resources. And so I've got a nice little prompt here. This is courtesy of our the GM of commercial practice. So need a decision ready slide deck. So it must look good. Okay, so I'm going to put this in front of the big boss. For the team, how do we free up enough resourcing to take on there's a new project. There's our Tyrell Corporation project inside a 7-week window between that date and that date. We have attached the current resourcing. And this is kind of the core story. But what can we do? Can we pause? Can we delay? Can we shift people among things? What can we actually do? And I want you to build it this way. So build a for decision, what it's actually all about. So the boss gets that when they capture their attention. The plan of what we're going to do. Tell me how we're going to actually move those resources, and show me week by week after the move what the impact on anything else will actually be. Okay. Also, will this result in any risks, and do any decisions need to be made? Like, am I stealing a resource from somebody else, and somebody else must decide on that? And keep it concise and factual for an executive. Okay, it's all about the numbers. We're talking to the big boss. So I can hit go on that. And what I will do is I will show you the output, because what I'm actually doing here, I'm asking it to produce a PowerPoint. Here is the PowerPoint. Now, this one I did not tell it, so Ellie and Liz look away. I did not tell it to use the company branding, but I could have, okay? I just told it to use a dark theme. It'll just show you it can pick up your branding off your network and do it properly. So it has come up with this, and it's like, okay, this is what you need to do. We've got these projects. This is what they're doing, and we need to pause that one, swap Rick and Roy over there, delay that one for a bit, put some new those that will result in new resources over there. And overall, you've got Rick doing less, Roy doing less, etc. How you're actually moving everyone around. Interestingly, this had been run by somebody else, is where I got the idea. So as I mentioned before, and there's an error in here. I'd actually found the error too. So it will then give me a detailed breakdown of exactly what has to happen with all of this. Like before, after, etc. It works out the variances. It's what we do have to look out for in terms of this. What have we got to do to make decisions to get this figured out by Monday? So all of that looks good, is ready for an executive. And all I had to do was go and prompt co-work to actually do that. So pretty easy thing to actually do, okay? So this is an example of not like the first one. The first one was really around plan my week, easy. Looking at a lot of data though, it was actually very valuable. Second one was creating a PowerPoint, conceptually easy. This is, yeah, creating a PowerPoint, but you've got to do a pile of analysis and have all these moving parts in your head to come up with the outcome of that. So that has worked really well. Okay, so I've now got my resources and I'm happy. And I need to now think about, okay, we get on with the project. So we start working on the project and we get to the end of the month and it's time to start thinking about a status report. I'm like, project managers, I know you love status reports. Like you live for the status report. Okay, you look forward to that sort of end of the month status report. But can't we make it slightly easier? Now, I did say I would only show you out of the box things. I'm going to show you a little bit of Altus, but there's logic. Okay, most of you got it anyway. So we're in Altus. I'm going to go into a project. I think it's logged me out. Let's see. It's just logging me back in. Okay, so I'm inside my project and I'm going to go to the financials because actually I want some financial data. So first of all, from a status perspective, a financial perspective, how am I in terms of, how am I doing? So I can export to CSV. That's all I actually want to do here. So I'm going to export it to CSV. I'm going to open this thing up. So here is a dump in CSV of my financial data. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm in Excel, okay? Out of the box Excel. There's Copilot. I see that because I have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. So I'm going to click on it and you'll find it can do all kinds of interesting things. And you can use it for help me build the Excel, put a formula in, do things like that. But I wanted to get more complicated. So I'm going to say, figure out my status. So analyze the project finance workbook to create a status for the monthly status report. Focus on how the work is planned versus actually progressing, any immediate issues, and any messages for management to get assistance. So let's see what it does. So it's having a think, it's gone and found the data, it's figuring stuff out. You could have loaded this into, you could have loaded the CSV into Copilot itself, but okay, you're in here. There's no reason not to use it directly in here. Okay, this could take a couple of seconds. As I said, these things are not menu. You're actually getting something to do a lot of heavy thinking for you. You can't expect them to be instant. It's not like, hey, I want to create a new risk. I want the form to pop up instantly. This is AI. You are dealing with an assistant. So I've said, hey, assistant, figure this out and give me something I can put into my status report. You need to give the assistant time to walk away, sit down, bring it up, think, type it all up, bring it all back to you, okay? This just happens to be a bit quicker. So hopefully it won't be too much longer. Okay, I don't want to wait because I don't like sort of dead time on the air. It will come back and does a pretty good job. So what it had done before was it'll actually work out where things are stuck and it figures out what's going on. So in this particular example, there has been some work planned for months and there's been nothing. You can see there's a big gap here. Oh, here we go. Okay, so it gives me a header. Okay, overall, I'm $2.5 million underspent. It's telling me by category, by finance category, CapEx, OpEx, and then broken down by labor, construction, training, travel, etc. And then it said, you've got a few problems, okay? So your labor resources are being underutilized, okay? So the actuals are not high enough as they should be. You've got unplanned or unforecast scheduling, so it's 248,000 as being spent. There are resources on there, it didn't have a forecast. It breaks it down for you monthly, and then it comes up with what you need to think about and really focus on. So here, escalation 1, that's what I was saying, that construction work not started. So you've got 483,000 forecast for construction, 0 actual spend. Major milestones probably delayed. Go and actually confirm that timeline. You've got resource planning mismatches. You've got unplanned spending. Your training program hasn't commenced. Overall project delivery risk. It's worked out the percentage of what you spent versus what you've actualized, and gives you a summary of that. So it gives you a pretty decent analysis of everything just using out-of-the-box Copilot. Okay, so that's the financial part that I've now got figured out. So that's great. I also need to do a status report. Okay, so I need to now do the rest of the status report. So what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to go to Copilot, to chat, and to notebooks. And the reason for the notebooks is there's all this stuff happening on my project. And if I create a notebook, it's like a folder that I can stick things into. So I can go into references and I can load in everything I've got. There's that resourcing PowerPoint. There's the project kickoff one. It's there twice. There's a resourcing one again. There's all the other things. I've got meeting transcripts and minutes and all this other stuff that's going on. I load it all in over there. Okay, so I build up a bundle essentially. Now, why am I building up a bundle as opposed to just letting it go to my work data generally, to work IQ? It's because I want it completely focused. I want to deal with this one without any hint of anything else. And I want to know where it is. And I've decided what I can put in and what I'm not putting in. Then I go to chat. And here is one I have before, but I'm just going to copy this over here. So this prompt is very well thought out and is courtesy of one of our senior project managers in our government team. So does that put it all in? Hang on, let me scroll up. No, that does not actually put my entire thing in. Oh, there it is. Okay. So he's listing out everything that's needed to build out my status for me. So what it's doing is going, looking in the notebook and figuring things out. So what you do here is you can use this to come up with your status for you, to tell you what's going on. You can also use it to have the team go in. If anyone just needs to know what's actually happening, you can use the chat in here to say, okay, this is all the project data. This is everything we're actually doing. It's figured out, our achievements, our resource and finance status, our risks, decisions made, upcoming priorities for the next week. So it's taken it all together, pulled it in. Now, you may say that, oh, but why do I need to do that? I know what's going on. But this is exactly the point of why we do this. So you don't have to remember all the details. You're human, okay? Sometimes you forget something. Sometimes you're fighting a fire. You can't remember absolutely every discussion that happened and every meeting, etc. Maybe you weren't in all those meetings. So you end up then having the Copilot go through and actually find all the stuff that's truly going on and create one status for you instead. Okay. Some tips on this as you do it. Your project may run for a very long time, and you are going to find that, like here, I've got 2 chats. They just happen to be identical, but they're 2. Normally, it's like this monthly reporting. You may keep it running forever, but it tends to forget over a while. So you may find that it's easier to create a second chat, or you need to go into the old one, tell it to summarize it, paste that in, and then tell it to look at the current status, because its context window is only so big. It doesn't remember a year back. Okay, so you got to remind it with that. A very good use for this is preparing for stand-ups. Okay, now when you need to prepare for a stand-up, and if you are wanting it to be a bit more like focused on, this is what our stand-up meetings are about, this is what we did last time, etc., you can actually go to the meeting. And if we go to this one, which I prepared earlier, you can, in the summary of it, you can go the little dots and say copy component. It will copy the loop component with all the information on this, and you can then do a forward slash, and you can then reference other things you want to ground it into, or that meeting that I have just thought about. And what it will do is it will then say, okay, I'm going to be grounded in this particular meeting. So what you're able to do then is say, okay, those are the past meetings, look at all that other information, prep me for the stand-up for today. Okay. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the demos here and the end of the session. What we wanted to show you was some quite simple but very effective uses of Copilot mostly, or all Copilot actually, or the different variations of it that you can use with what you've got now. Some of you may have some other things. If anyone does have any other suggestions for this, you feel free to unmute yourself. If anyone's got any questions, unmute yourself. Or Ellie, I don't know if anything's been put into the chat or the Q&A. Okay, does anyone have any questions, or anyone got any like really cool things they're doing with AI that they want to share?
I'm not seeing anything, Ryan.
No, that's okay. Well, I hope we gave you something that you could take away from this and try
We do
yourself.
have one, sorry.
Yeah,
before
one,
we...
yeah.
Can you estimate agent costs per question? Sorry for quick work.
You can't, you can estimate agent costs per task. And it's less so about agent, but more about co-work or even Copilot. Microsoft does have tables that they publish on that. So if you search for it, you'll find that. It's a pretty rough estimate because it does depend on the complexity of the question. And they do say, is it like simple, medium, or hard, essentially, and they're different costs. So you don't know exactly, but that's why I know, because I've looked it up before, what the co-work costs were. So if I go to, so where was one over here? That's, I can say cost. So that has cost 96 credits, which is 96 US cents. So it's about $1.50. That's because I stopped it at that point. So you can quickly start seeing what things actually do cost after the fact. Or you can look the tables up to actually try and figure it out, but it is a bit rough and ready.
I do have a couple more questions, one are long ones.
Yeah.
Is there any difference in the level of cross-application connectivity available to basic chat users compared to 5 Copilot premium users? Additionally, if a premium user creates an agent that relies on premium capabilities, such as a Claude model, agent workflows, can basic users access and use the agent? If so, how would tokens or credit consumption be allocated between the agent creator and the basic user?
Okay, so there's a few things in there. Yes, you can create agents that others can then use. Okay, that of course is going to be charged for. That will go to the user of the agent, which will be the basic user in this case. Now, they won't have any credits because they don't have a paid license, so it will then flow to the actual organizational account. The difference between them is basically that the free one cannot get to those organizational tools. Okay, they will just not be able to do all of that. The paid one will. So it depends on if you just want to load in, the SharePoint directory, that's okay. But if you wanted it to point to your email and point to Altus, for example, you're going to need paid licenses for that, at least to build it.
I've got
Really?
one more as well. Actually, 2 more, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you ask Copilot to estimate the cost based on a prompt/task, back on the previous question?
You mean beforehand?
I think, can you estimate the cost based on a prompt or task? So if you've got a good enough knowledge of it.
I don't think it'll be very easy to do that. So I think we'd have to maybe take that discussion offline. Whoever is asked to feel free to recharge. But again, all you can do is look up the Microsoft tables, and it's small, medium, hard, or easy, medium, hard, essentially, and try and work it out. So you can work it out. they do give some guidance on what makes it hard, for example. And it will be like once it's multi-step accessing, multi-tool, multi-reasonings, that type of thing. So you'll be able to get an idea based on that.
Perfect. Okay, another question for you, Ryan. What scenarios would you suggest are better fit for Copilot agents created in Studio versus co-work?
Oh, so agents are going to be cheaper. Okay, so that'll lead you. Things that are repetitive, that I need to do the same thing over and over, and things that are needing to connect to other tools. If you want to connect to Altus, for example, use an agent to do that, because there are tools built in to help you do that. With co-work, you don't really have those, to hand as such as part of that. So treat co-work as an assistant that is doing different things every time. But if it's the same stuff, if you have, like, you wanted to actually run a governance check across all my projects once a week, I would do an agent. You could do that in co-work, but I wouldn't. I would do that in agent instead. So yeah, repetitive work that you want to share with people as well. This is one of the main things. So I want to share this on an abstract level. So I create an agent to do something like, over here, we've got this thing that helps us plan out our responses to proposals. Well, how that works, what's behind the scenes, people don't care about. They just know they can go and use it as a shared agent. If it was co-work, I've got to share the prompts and do all that stuff instead. Okay. So co-work is more for you. Agents is where you want it more for other people and you wanted to connect to more things.
Perfect. And we've got, looks like one more. Where do the notebook uploaded files get sorted?
They get from memory, get put into OneDrive. There's a spot. So in OneDrive, if you're like many levels down, is a Copilot place. There's a folder and in over there. So you'll find they're all stashed in there. Usually the way to spot it is you open, once it's generated one of these things, you can open it and you can see where it's actually stored.
I think that wraps it up for the questions that I can see.
Okay, no worries. If anyone does want to talk about this stuff, please feel free to reach out to us. Go and experiment. There are so many different ways we're figuring out. I'm fascinated by seeing what project managers or PMOs are doing with these tools. So showing you some simple examples today. Hopefully that inspires you. Have a go, and you never know what valuable thing you could get out of this. Save yourself some time and effort. Thank you all very much.
I will, Ryan, get you to quickly put the PowerPoint up because we do
Yes.
have a fact sheet that
We do. Let me
it is a
share
high-level
this again.
Copilot for project managers cheat sheet, which will be sent after the session along with the recording. Anything else, some few assets for you. So with some prompt suggestions, some strengths, weaknesses, and some key features for Copilot, PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. All, and we hope to see you in the next one and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Ellie. Bye.
Thank you.